This is the Unspoken Podcast on the Undetermined Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, a cheap seat sports production part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. I'm Tom Albano, along with Nick Fodera and Nick Morgasen. If you would like to listen to the rest of this episode, please pay $9.99.
Oy, yeah, you start with the net neutrality jokes already.
Oh, God.
Looked like you were going to say something.
No, it's just your data limit on this episode has exceeded. To continue, please pay $9.99.
Oh, it's just like those robotic calls we got to deal with. Great.
At least these calls aren't being outsourced.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to India. We're not going to China. We're not going to Japan. We're not outsourcing calls. Okay, good. At least it's somewhat free. Good.
LiAngelo Ball's probably happy he's not going back to China.
No, but he's going to Lithuania, but we'll get to that later.
These MLB Winter Meetings, guys, they've been pretty busy. Got general managers running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to make moves, make whatever they need to make before the start of the season. It's madness down there in Florida.
Well, they're running around like Jesse Owens with his pants on fire.
But, I mean, the way the winter meetings are, believe it or not, there hasn't really been a whole lot of signings. There's been a lot of trades. The reliever market is really where the money's been going right now.
Two things. First of all, if you didn't listen to our interview with Brian Hope, please go listen to that. It's episode 48 and a half, a little special edition where Nick and I talked to him about specifically the Yankees signing Stanton and other things going on down in Florida. It was an interview Nick and I did with Matt Cerrone from Mets Blog and SNY, and he had a lot to say. He was very, very nice, first of all, and second of all, had a lot of information about what the Mets might be doing.
Or specifically the lack of what they might be doing, which is kind of the. He seems to me to be he covers the team, but he is also a fan of the team.
Yeah, he's a lot different than most of your average reporters, beat reporters, newspaper reporters. He kind of, like you said, he brings you the actual news of the Mets, and he's going to give you an opinion as a Met fan.
Well, that was pretty clear when we asked him about Alderson's comments with the Yankees Stanton trade.
And he seemed quite exasperated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone is exasperated with this whole Yankees Stanton trade. And now with the Manny Machado news, which I'm sure all three of us have a lot to talk about with that because of a certain White Sox thing that might be coming down the train per speak. But I don't know. It's been an interesting offseason, and the Yankees are going from poor with a rich farm system to riches.
Yeah, and it's not even rags. They came within one win of going to the World Series. I wouldn't exactly call that rags, Morgasen.
Yeah, and remember, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year.
I guess. I mean, I understand It was supposed to be a rebuilding year, but at the same time, I think they were much better than a rebuilding team and what they were supposed to be.
So context is necessary. For those of you who haven't been checking into our episodes regularly and the special edition that Nick Morgasen and myself did a couple of days ago, the Yankees traded for Giancarlo Stanton, the Marlins right fielder, the reigning NL MVP, and
now the Yankees
my goodness,
that features Stanton, Judge, and Gary Sanchez.
And Greg
It's a murderer's row. It's a murderer's freaking row. You're going to have three guys who are capable of hitting 40 to 50 home runs.
As long as Stanton remains healthy.
Which that is a question in and of itself because he's had
Sanchez to stay healthy.
Yeah, well, Sanchez has been, other than missing the month, other than just general wear and tear, I don't think he's accrued that much mileage. Do you?
I don't know, but I mean, Hope did tell us that Aaron Boone is kind of working with Gary Sanchez now, supposedly a little bit better than what Girardi worked with Sanchez.
Yeah,
well, I was concerned from the standpoint. I asked him, Brian Hoke, a question about will he get along with Aaron Boone because Gary Sanchez didn't really like Joe Girardi, and it was kind of one of those severed relationships where the player feels like he has more power than the manager because he's the one playing on the field. I think Aaron Boone will be able to fix that situation, hopefully.
I honestly don't think it was dislike, based on what I've seen and what I've read. I think it was more of a culture clash because Girardi's more of an old school guy. He's very regimented, very let's say tight like a fist. So, and Gary's a little bit more laid back, let's say. So, here's hoping though that Booney can actually bring something to this relationship that's for Gary's benefit, because even though, let's remember something, he still hit more than 30 home runs.
Mm-hmm. True. Right. But at the same time, his catching abilities suffered. He had the most passed balls in Major League Baseball this past season.
I mean, that's also a fair point.
Well, would you take that as a trade-off with the offensive power that you get from him?
Well, you have to remember, though, the catching position is one of the most important positions on the field. And if some of those passed balls last season cost them games. So if you can cut the goal, I would say is you got to cut that number in half. So I think he had like 13 passed balls last season.
I would say maybe during like the spring training and pitchers and catchers time, I think Sanchez should focus more on catching and not letting balls get past him rather than spending time in the cage.
Exactly. That's my point. That if you can at least cut that number in half from 13 to, since you can't come up with an even number, so 6. If you can cut it down in half at least, or around half, then it would seem a little more respectable, and then his hitting will make up for part of that.
And, you gotta admit that Aaron Boone is the luckiest SOB in the Eastern Hemisphere to have this lineup. You just got handed, in your first year, the keys to a Bugatti.
Right. So it's like he's got what people might say as one of the easiest jobs in baseball right now, but it's also one with the most pressure, because if he don't succeed, well,
then you're fired.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I was going to say this for later, but since we're talking about big acquisitions now, this whole Manny Machado thing is a mess. Because if anyone doesn't know this, Manny Machado is on the market. He's got 1 year left before free agency. The Yankees are obviously in. You have a bunch of other teams, the White Sox, the Cardinals, the Phillies, the Giants. And Peter Angelos, who's the owner of the Orioles. I think he's 88 years old, so he's no spring chicken, as you say. And
he's more of a crypt keeper.
Yeah. So he doesn't want to trade him to the Yankees, which I understand because you're making the rich richer in your own division. But how much time are you going to waste and let his value dwindle? Because if he plays with the Orioles during the season and you wait until the trade deadline, the value is just going to drop.
Especially considering that Machado last season, let's face it, it was a bad season. Now, for Machado's sake, let's hope for him that that's all it was a bad year. Let's hope this isn't regression.
But what I must add, because the big storyline, well, in the wake of the Stanton trade, what dominated most of the winter meetings, most of the conversation in the winter meetings, in the wake of the Stanton trade after they introduced him, was that Manny Machado, the storyline that we kept hearing was that the White Sox were going to trade for him and then potentially flip him to the Yankees for pitching prospects. We heard Miguel Andujar and Chance Adams being thrown around. But here's what I don't get.
That.
Yeah, well, before we get there.
I don't get.
Wait a second. Before we get there.
Okay.
I have the stats from Manny Machado in 2017.
Okay.
Who had a down year. Listen to this. 33 home runs, 95 RBIs. He walked 50 times, and he struck out 115 times, which is not bad for a power hitter. So, he hit I was about to say he hit 259, which is not great, but he hit 33 home runs and had 95 RBIs on a team that wasn't going anywhere. Can you imagine if he ended up in the Yankee lineup?
All right, that's fair, but then maybe we need to change how we view Machado. Maybe he's not the pure hitter. Maybe now he is more the power hitter.
But what I
but it's like
Go ahead.
what I was going to say was Stanton. Like to compare to Stanton, he had 59 home runs in a pitcher's ballpark in Florida. Can you imagine what he's going to do in Yankee Stadium? You could say that for Machado. Machado was in a hitter's ballpark in Baltimore. He's now going to an even better hitter's ballpark if that's where they send him, if that's where he ends up.
I was going to say, well, there's a whole lot to it about this Machado thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm having trouble understanding, because you have everything that I kept saying was, oh, they could flip him to the Yankees, but why, if you get Machado via trade, if Chicago gets him, why would they not keep him?
That's what I was saying to Tom.
They have the financial means to sign him long term, I would assume, and there are really good prospects in that system, really good guys on that team. So why wouldn't they want to keep him?
They have the money, because I don't know if I was telling you, Nick, or if I was telling Tom the other night that Jerry Reinsdorf owns the White Sox. He's one of the richest owners in all of sports, because he owns the White Sox, he owns the Bulls, and I think he owns the Blackhawks. I think he owns all three teams in Chicago.
Wow.
What kind of
Don't quote me on that.
Bowls or ice cream bowls?
Don't quote me on that. I know he owns the White Sox and the Bulls. I'm not sure about the Blackhawks, but he owns both the NBA team and the MLB team. He's got the money. But what I don't get, and I said this to the two of you when we were prepping here, why would the White Sox trade for Machado? They're going to trade their hard-earned prospects, and then they're going to go to the Yankees and flip him again for prospects? You're back at square one if you do that.
Basically, that White Sox team needs a lot of help, but they got a lot of young blood. They also got, don't forget, Yoel Moncada, whose future is bright in baseball.
Right, that's what I don't get. So I wouldn't do that. If you're gonna work really hard to make the deal happen, you got to keep him and use him.
It remains to be seen what they're going to do, but it really seems like a lot of these trade scenarios, especially from these beat writers, were more wishful thinking than they were actually based in, well, I don't want to say plausible reality, but feasibility in what teams could work with and what their thinking was.
I get it, but the way that this is going, I think that the Orioles want the White Sox to sign an agreement so they can't flip him to the Yankees. That would be hilarious.
That's what we're hearing. And I said this before during the pre-meeting. This is like one of those things where it's like you're in elementary school and you're on the playground and you're like, okay, we'll do this, but you can't tell him.
We're just going to hold it over your head with a piece of paper that's an agreement. Hey, well, you can't trade to the Yankees. Well, or else we're not going to make the deal with you.
I knew so many of those kids in elementary school. It's not even funny.
Well, here's the thing, though. You know what happens to people who act like you know what happens? I can't even speak. You know what happens to the cool people when they get older? They disappear. Nothing. They do nothing. It's always the nerds that make it.
I would just think they turn into jerks and then run for political office, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, there's that too, or they work for like some kind of restoration, fixing cars or something.
Or to get into the world of business.
As far as what we've seen, everything we've seen go on in this winter meeting, what do you think? Which team do you think has the best, comes out of the winter meetings with the best chance to win and win a lot of games in 2018?
Nick, you just asked a no-shit question. I think we all know what the answer to that is.
Well, you know what? Wait a second. I don't think it's a completely 100% home run. I mean, everyone thinks that it's the Yankees, but at the same time, you have to put the Angels up there because of all the moves they're making. And tell me what you think, Tom, and then I'll tell you where I'm segueing with this.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this because I understand. So, I mean, yes, you have the Yankees, but the Angels, they haven't been wasting their time as well. The Angels have been on the phone. The Angels have been making moves, getting names. they've been at it. Their work production during the winter meetings has been a little busy, and
you know that
it may also be because of a certain other thing that happened to a certain other pitcher.
Well, you know how they say, I forgot what the actual saying is. It's something blank and taking names, like when you're going after somebody.
Kicking ass and taking names.
Kicking ass and taking names, basically, because in the last half an hour alone, because I've been following along on Twitter, and see, you don't even need websites and newspapers anymore. Just go on Twitter, you'll find out everything. But so the Angels announced about a half an hour ago that they signed a 3-year deal with shortstop Zach Cozart, who was the big shortstop prospect. Well, not prospect, but just big free agent name at the shortstop position from the Reds. And what's interesting is, you know how the Angels were connected to Mike Moustakas for a few years? So,
yeah.
So the Angels came out and said, this is from Bob Nightingale from USA Today. The Angels never were interested in signing Mike Moustakas, apparently.
Really?
So, because they say that they were looking for more versatility, and Zach Cozart brings more versatility, apparently. So,
well, Zach Cozart is a shortstop, isn't he?
He is a shortstop. So I don't know what and they also and the other night, you probably saw all the wildness that they were going through the other night. They got Ian Kinsler.
They have Ian Kinsler, Zach Cozart.
And that was good. That was completely unexpected, because we thought that we were thinking, because the Mets were interested in him, although, hoping for the Mets to do anything is like howling in the dark. That's just not going to happen.
Well, there's one wrinkle in the Ian Kinsler situation that people didn't know. The Angels were on his 10-team no-trade clause. So Ian Kinsler didn't have a full no-trade. He had a 10-team no-trade. So the Angels, the Yankees, the Red Sox, all the big teams were on that 10-team no-trade. And apparently he waived his no-trade to go to the Angels.
I guess, dude. I guess, he's confident in what the team is doing.
Getting Ohtani must have tipped it.
Well,
we'll get to it in this minute.
We need to get into the Ohtani, I'm going to call it bullcrap, because remember how I told you guys a couple episodes ago that I thought there would be some kind of investigation into Ohtani?
Well, Nick, I think the thing you and I made, this calls for that to be played. That's what this calls for.
Ohtani. What the fuck?
This whole Shohei Ohtani bullshit is, and I called this, by the way, you can go back and look, that he was going to get investigated, not investigated for crimes, but his medical records were going to get investigated. Because I just said, no one actually came out and said, did anyone give this guy a physical? Which they probably did. But there was no records on the guy. And now he has, and he might have Tommy John and missed the whole season.
Well, what you didn't hear from the Matt Cerrone interview was that the prevailing thought around Major League Baseball concerning him is that somebody leaked those records that we weren't supposed to find out.
I heard that actually this morning, that some of the records might have been leaked.
Somebody in the Players Union is going to be up in arms.
Here's what I think is going to happen. Now, it might not happen exactly this way, but I could see if the Players Association steps in, they're going to not allow this to happen. But I think Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred are going to step in and say, hey, if these medical records were hidden, we're going to put a pardon on this deal and say the Angels can have their money back, and Ohtani's going to go back to Japan.
I can't see them voiding the deal, though. I can see him pitching through it and then possibly getting damaged, getting the UCL actually torn. Because think of what his workload is going to be going into the 2018 season. He's going to pitch and he's going to hit. That's double the opportunity for him to get hurt.
And remember, that pitch and hit thing was not a team's decision. This is what Ohtani wants to do. It's on him.
Yeah, but this is the problem. The injury was hidden, and we've seen what happens when injuries are hidden before. So I think the Angels need to step up and say, hey, you hid this from us. We want out of this deal. We want to avoid this deal.
Well, Billy Epler said he knew about it when the news came out.
That's worse because no one said anything.
Well, do you think Billy Epler was actually lying when he said they knew about it when they were doing the due diligence and research on him?
Something's fishy because the way that this was handled, they made it sound like he wasn't injured at all, and then it was a surprise when the injury came out.
Well, I mean, when we were talking with Cerrone before, he mentioned that some of the kind of injury, at least to the degree that it is right now, is that it's similar to like what other pitchers could have had because these are guys who have pitched, since childhood. So it's like if you got...
It's similar to what Tanaka dealt with 2 years ago.
Or Matt Harvey.
Yeah.
Well, right. I was going to mention the Tanaka situation that he eventually pitched through the tear, and he never needed the surgery. Somehow he managed to pitch through it. And I think he got it fixed in the offseason anyway.
Right.
So
but my only concern is this is not a guy who's, as we just said, he's not only going to pitch. He's going to pitch and he's going to hit and play in the field, possibly.
Well, yeah, we saw that. And apparently, according to Yahoo Sports and Fantasy, he's going to be two different players.
Yeah. Those of you who want to use him for fantasy baseball, you can draft him twice.
Well, not only that, they also made it clear that you could trade Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, for Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher. You can't make this stuff up, everybody. It's true.
You can't make this stuff up.
Or maybe he can actually be in two places at once, and we're all wrong.
This shit writes itself. But yeah, I think we can all agree there's something fishy going on here. So, somebody's getting fired on the Japan team, possibly the Angels team, MLB.
Oh, you mean the Nippon Ham Fighters?
Is that what their name is?
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Nippon Ham Fighters.
The Nippon Ham Fighters. Well, somebody's getting fired.
I don't know. If I were the Angels, I'd say, hey, but even if they knew the injury, he had to have had the injury beforehand.
That's what I'm thinking. Like something had to have happened. But I mean, the minute, because if Epler really did know about this injury, if I was in Epler's shoes, I wouldn't have gone for him because what I would have said was, okay, but we found this injury, which means we're not going to allow you to both pitch and hit anymore. You can only do one. And then at that point, Ohtani would have said, then I'm not going with you.
Can you imagine, though, if this was – because he came out 2 years before technically he could be posted into free agency at age 25. So he could have – they're saying that he was going to be valued somewhere at $200 million. Can you imagine if he came out 2 years later and the injury was worse and where we would be – what we'd be talking about now?
Well, he'd still be in Japan.
Probably.
No, but I'm saying if he pitched through this injury – and it got worse over time in the 2 years, right. And then he came out.
Then he wouldn't be posted. No MLB team would touch him.
Yeah, his market would plummet like a lead balloon.
But I'm saying if it was treated the same way, you might not even know he had the injury until after.
Honestly, I don't think there's any way we can know because we can't go back. We can't go back in time and well, we have the benefit of hindsight.
Right.
You're right.
And. Guys, I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Well, you guys corrected on me last week, but the minute he plays a game, after all this shit, I guarantee you Ohtani will become one of the biggest busts in baseball history. The minute he steps on the field.
Right, because it's too I don't know what the word I'm looking for, predetermined. If that's not the right word, but it makes the point that he hasn't played a game yet, and you can't judge someone who hasn't played a game yet. Now, like I would compare it to a guy like Mark Pryor, who was supposed to be the biggest name of all time pitching-wise, and then he kept getting hurt, and then his career was over.
They can't necessarily say a bust because he hasn't played a game yet, but it's a bad omen. This is a bad omen.
You're right.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. Something to note, little somber here. Today's unfortunately the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Craig Sager.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, wow. Like, I can't believe it's been 1 year since he passed away.
Basketball TV coverage really hasn't been the same without him, if I'm going to be entirely honest.
I'm going to agree. I miss his voice. His voice helped make, those coverage of the NBA games fun.
See, we don't think of sideline reporters as much, but they actually make the game. It's not just the commentators. They make the game because they get the scoops on the sideline.
Even Popovich, who is not the best interviewer, doesn't really like the media. Even he had a soft spot in his heart for Sager.
Yeah, that's
that man probably eats gravel for breakfast.
I mean, if you see the way Popovich does interviews, like with the ESPN people, he'll just be like, all right, you have 3 questions you can ask, and that's it?
Right, and sometimes he provides the shortest responses. I mean, back in the spring, I think we covered this on an episode of a really past episode of the Unspoken Podcast. I don't think he even used a word for one of his answers. It was something like,
No, my favorite is when they do the interview and someone will ask him the most obvious question in the entire world. Hey, Pop, your team really didn't play so good in that second quarter. Do you have any idea what that was? Oh, we didn't score. And I'm like, what? Really? Like, that's your answer?
Which is his way of saying your light speed's stupid. Stop asking me those questions.
I know, but it's their job. That's why. I don't know. But anytime Sager did it, he kind of, even before we knew he had the cancer, like he used to, for some reason, the two of them got along.
Greatly got along.
So he kind of knew how to work with Pop. Unlike other guys, like the ESPN people.
He knew how to hop on Pop.
Oh, wow.
And speaking of ESPN, you know what? Since we're talking about ESPN, let's just throw it in now. So a big deal just happened in the world of media. Disney acquiring 21st Century Fox. But there's a sports part of that makes it even bigger.
Yes, there is.
So ESPN now owns just about all of the regional sports networks that were run by Fox.
Right. So just so people understand, there's a huge business aspect. So I'll try to explain some of it because when I went through all the paperwork to understand what this was, it was very complicated.
It's enough to make a man's head spin.
Yeah, it's worse, actually. You might see The Exorcist happen like 10 times in a row or something. But by the end of this deal, Disney is going to pick up $60 billion in assets from Century 21 Fox. So
21st Century Fox.
What did I say?
Century 21st Fox, which is
wow, 21st Century Fox. Whatever. I'll give a fuck.
Regional sports networks. They're going to try and sell me a house too.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah, fuck Fox. Give a shit. Fox go die for all I care. I can't stand them. But
Jesus.
But I don't like FS1. I don't like FS2. Their sports coverage stinks. Now ESPN is going to garner the market.
I was going to say, Fox Sports, all Fox has now is FS1, FS2, the Big Ten Network, and whatever they produce on the local Fox affiliates. That's it.
Actually, I think ESPN got the piece of Big Ten Network.
A piece, not everything, though.
I think they got their piece of the Big Ten Network.
What? No, I read that.
Yeah,
I read that wasn't part of the deal.
Oh, maybe. Maybe they got a piece of it, not the whole thing. But Here's what I heard. They got all the regional sports networks, and basically what they're going to do is instead of sending all their network guys all over the country anymore, they're now going to have localized coverage. And for all the baseball fans out there, I heard they might be bringing back baseball tonight locally to the regional sports networks for ESPN, along with doing a local college game day wherever they are in the country. Now, it's interesting because you're going to see, like, now the Yes Network is going to be essentially owned by ESPN.
Essentially.
Well, ipso facto owned by Disney, so.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of these things happen. Now, I'm hearing that they're also going to use some of the ESPN radio shows, like the local, like New York, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Orlando. They're going to use some of that as content for the regional sports network.
Right. Because everything from like Fox Sports New York to Fox Sports Arizona, Fox Sports Orlando, that's now going to be rebranded as ESPN New York, ESPN Arizona.
Probably, yeah.
Well, at least in this market, at least, I think you won't see Yes and SNY going anywhere.
No.
Well, no, because they have deals to be local in New York. So it's going to be a matter of how they're going to use them. But there's one more issue I want to get to with ESPN, because we're seeing more and more names coming out in these sexual abuse, sexual assault scandals. And now, did you guys hear that John Buccigross and Matthew Berry are now on the list of alleged?
Wait, Matthew Berry?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about Matthew Berry. What the fuck?
Well, that one's not as confirmed 100%, but the John Buccigross story is out on Awful Announcing because, and get the actually, you know what? Get the circus music, please.
Really?
Yes.
A request for the circus music. I'm
going to tell you why in a second. Play the circus music.
I have never been requested for the circus music. This is a first on the podcast. Usually we would do it voluntarily, but this is the first I've actually been requested to do this.
All right, everybody.
Wait, the music. We have to wait for you too. Okay, now.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the circus, and that includes ESPN. So now, ESPN decided to do the dumbest thing it's probably done since it's laid off 300-plus workers.
Twice this year.
So we all know John Buccigross. We've heard everything about the text messages and shirtless photos he's been sending to Adrian Lawrence, allegedly. And Adrian Lawrence allegedly went to the Boston Globe and basically said ESPN is a locker room culture going on at the company.
Well, we kind of knew about that from the one class that we took last year.
Well, guess what ESPN decided to do?
Oh, no. What did they decide to do?
They decided to release the text message conversation between John Buccigross and Adrian Lawrence.
So now all the world can see his pathetic pickup attempts.
What the fuck?
And for those of you who hadn't actually read those texts, the phrases baby doll and long legs are being thrown around with aplomb.
It's doll face and long legs.
Which
regardless,
there are certain things in this world that are universal truths. Universal truths. One is food always tastes better when somebody else is paying for it. 2, Jim Dolan doesn't know what the hell he's doing. 3, Phil Jackson knew even less of what the hell he was doing. And 4 is you never use the terms baby doll and long legs with a woman you are not, or any kind of person you are not romantically involved with, dating or married.
Agree.
Agree, but can I ask this? The first 3 parts of it, are those like in the Unspoken Commandments, the Unspoken Podcast Commandments?
Yes.
That Jim Dolan and Phil Jackson don't know what the hell they're doing.
I don't know what you're doing, ESPN, but now you're just fucking it up for everybody.
This is becoming sad. I didn't even hear about the Matthew Berry thing. I'm like, what? Well, guess what?
Apparently, Matthew Berry took, somebody to a strip club.
What?
Which is your first mistake.
And apparently, he admitted, it came out the other day that he said that I might have had some poor judgment.
Okay, boys. On 3. 1, 2, 3. No shit!
I don't know, but the way that these stories came out, it's crazy, and the whole John Buccigross sending shirtless photos to Adrian Lawrence, that I mean,
at this point,
you
I'm
have to
going to
have
make my own love-hate list.
I mean, that's ego. That's ego, my friend.
If 2016 was the year in which all your favorite celebrities are dead, 2017 is going to go down in history as the year where all your favorite celebrities are dead to you.
Mm-hmm.
That is strong, and yet I think that resonates so well with society today.
Well, it's smart, which means I didn't come up with it. So.
Right. So, moving back, I know we're kind of a little all over the place. I want to get back to Major League Baseball moves. Some others are coming out now.
You have to break before we move on. You have some breaking stuff.
Well, we said the Cozart news. That happened. Freddie Galvis was traded from the Phillies to the Padres, which I don't get.
I don't get either. And then I remember
for their number one shortstop prospect.
I get. Yeah, he was the number one shortstop prospect. But I don't get the move, to be honest with you. It's just one of those weird...
The Padres are in the mix for I think it was Hosmer. If that happens, I will eat my non-existing hat right now.
You'll actually start wearing hats just so you can eat them.
Probably.
Oh, God.
How... The fact that... And now, did the Phillies get anybody in particular, or was it just the move?
I think it was just to move. I think it was just to move him, but there's also another move which I don't get. Now we're switching it. Well, it has to do with the Phillies also. I guess you could say it was a very smooth move, but Carlos Santana has signed with the Phillies. 3 years, $60 million, going to a team which is basically going nowhere.
They're getting a guitarist as a player.
Well, they've got to change their evil ways.
I guess so, yeah.
But I mean, the Phillies are actually doing something. The Padres are somehow in the mix. Boys, I think we just have to come and face it. When it comes to the MLB Winter Meetings, the end is nigh. It doesn't help that we got Stanton. It's like, well, everything that we knew about the MLB, now the questions have been changed.
Well, there's still other rumors if you want to discuss them.
Okay.
Pirates, Garrett Cole possibly being dealt to the Yankees for Clint Frazier.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that one. I did hear about that.
Now, as I said before, the rich might be getting richer. That would be an unbelievable move if it somehow happened.
And it would mean Gardy is spared another year.
The Jacoby Ellsbury thing is still a mess, but I don't think they're ever going to figure that one out.
Right. That's why I say if we're talking about outfielders being dealt, Gardy will always be ahead of Ellsbury only because nobody is going to touch that New York style, overpaid, long-term deal. That nobody's going to touch that thing.
But in the interest of being honest, of being entirely honest, I should say, I really do not want Clint Frazier to go because Gardy's getting up there. He's not going to be in left field forever, and you're going to need somebody to take his place.
He's not the young buck that we knew 10 years ago.
Yeah, but we have prospects. I mean, you could put someone out in left field. I mean,
but Clint Frazier's actually good. You don't want a scrub, a nobody, or a warm body just taking his place. It's an important part, and honestly, what I've seen from Frazier, he can play. He just needs to get more playing time.
And the thing is, when you guys were talking about the Stanton deal on Saturday, the thing I told you guys was my only concern was, yeah, maybe getting rid of Castro was fine and part of that, but still, I still felt like you're getting rid of a talented second baseman. So whoever, and there were rumors that maybe Gilbert Torres will play second or he'd stay third, but basically whoever comes in and fills that hole in the infield, they're going to have a lot to live up to.
Well,
no, they are.
Brian Hoke did say that it might be Torres or Tyler Wade.
Well, I think Torres is a good player. I think what's going to happen with Torres, he's going to become that super utility guy, which he already has.
Right.
And I think he'll fit in. I think that's the perfect role. The Yankees need a guy like that when they need to spell somebody. Now, I heard that he's basically playing almost every position. You see him in the outfield, you see him in the infield. He's just one of those guys that's really going to really plug holes that are necessary that they need.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that Castro, that's not small shoes to fill. That's big shoes to fill. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with all this MLB stuff, the winter meetings. They've had the Rule 5 draft. There's still another 6 weeks to go in the offseason. So
as far as we've come since the offseason began, there's still 6 weeks left, and there's still a bunch of dominoes to fall.
Just be careful. You don't want to end up being a donkey like Zach Cozart, if you know what I'm talking about context-wise.
Context might be necessary.
Please tell me.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick knows where I'm going. Yeah. So
Zach Cozart supposedly owns a donkey.
Well, in a bet, he got a donkey for making the All-Star team from Joey Votto. So no donkeys here.
That's great.
I'd love to see his monthly lawn maintenance bill.
Oh, God.
Listen to the Unspoken Podcast, Chief Seat Sports Production Party on the Podcast Network. It's episode 49, guys. Let's move on. Let's talk briefly about a basketball thing. Not an NBA thing, a basketball thing. And I say this with a shotgun pointed towards my mouth. It's time to talk about the Ball family.
Yet again, they pretty much are the Batman villains that will not go away.
They know how to dominate the headlines. And guess what, everybody? They are now playing in Lithuania.
Because nothing says basketball like former Soviet bloc basketball. There's no dunking, only passing. Everyone gets chance at ball. And ball is not ball, it is cinder block. You will dribble cinder block and you will like it.
Oh
my God. But yeah, basically it's shit basketball in my opinion. I'm sorry, whoever watches Lithuanian basketball, I apologize. But
if you do, who are you? We want you on the show.
Yeah, really. Anyone who is related or wants to talk about LeVar Ball and his sons, reach out. We'll gladly take you.
For those of you who have been sleeping under a rock or have no care or just don't know what the story is, so there has been part 2 to the pulling out of UCLA. Now, LiAngelo and LaMelo are heading overseas to Lithuania to play in a Lithuanian professional basketball league.
In the hopes that their performance in that league will help them get drafted.
Well, not drafted. They just get signed by a team in the NBA.
So they're trying to pull a reverse Kristaps Porzingis.
Basically, yeah, but
it's not even a reverse. It's a funhouse mirror, Kristaps Porzingis.
Well, the reason why
Kristaps Porzingis.
No, it's a haunted house.
The reason why is because apparently LiAngelo was not even on the plans of any teams for the draft, not even on their extended draft boards. He was off of the radar, which he didn't play a game yet in the NCAA, plus his thing with China. We talked about, Nick, I think you agreed with me when I had my rant a couple of weeks ago. With how LiAngelo has been right now, if I'm an NBA executive, he's not on my radar.
No, he's not. And the way that this situation is, it's just – I feel like this is just LeVar Ball. And remember that joke I made, keeping up with the Kardashians, it's more like keeping up with the balls? So
that's what it is.
That's where we're at this point, where LeVar Ball is going to do what LeVar Ball says. And if you go on Twitter, there's a hashtag that says hashtag LeVar Ball says. So that's basically where we're at. And I don't see his other two sons really making it anywhere. If you go on LeVar Ball's Twitter account, by the way, at LeVar Big Baller,
right,
there's a pinned tweet at the top that shows LeVar Ball dunking over Donald Trump. That just gives you context right there. So that shows you how stupid LeVar Ball is.
Well, then again, I've had fantasies about doing that exact same thing. So
Well, LeVar Ball is LeVar Ball, and you guys know my feelings on LeVar Ball. You guys,
Oh, you've made it abundantly clear that he ain't getting anything from you for Christmas.
no, he's not on my Christmas card list. But
Oh no, I'm gonna get you Big Baller Brand shoes. Oh wait, I'm not spending $500.
I was going to say that's the thing. I always hear like, well, it's about the brand, and it's like, why are you spending $500, $600 on these Big Baller Brand shoes for a brand that has players that, let's face it, have done nothing?
Let's put it this way: it's either buy Big Baller Brand shoes or make a house payment. Your choice.
But, gentlemen, I have come across a story or two. One of these is that apparently, well, let me just put it to you bluntly. When it comes to the Ball family and Lithuania, the Lithuanian citizens, nobody knows who they are, and I think so few of them really care, because it's like, there was a video released where it's like a reporter took to the streets of Lithuania to see, how they felt about the Ball family coming there, and most people didn't even know, but they were just like, I don't know who they are, but they have hype, so it sounds interesting. Here's the thing. This is less of a fuck LeVar Ball situation. I said this on the pre-show meeting, more of a I'm concerned for these kids, because this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So neither one of these kids have played. I know I see here, Nick, but I want to finish this point.
Yeah.
So neither one of these kids, like LaMelo was still in high school. He was still a junior. He was being, of course, homeschooled, but it's like, he was playing on team and stuff. On the other hand, you had LiAngelo, who didn't play a game for UCLA yet. He was only a freshman, and he was still on the bench. He hadn't earned a starting spot yet. And it's more like, I'm concerned because, number one, of their education. But, some athletes did skip college and stuff and still ended up fine. But this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because if these two do not play well against these Lithuanians, it's like, well, you guys are just not going to make it. It's a laughable situation then. Everybody gets to laugh at the Ball family and go, ha ha, you guys are wrong. On the other hand, if they succeed, it's like, well, you beat Lithuanian talent. It's not like you beat NBA talent, maybe even G League talent.
Right. And what I was going to say is that people feel bad for Lonzo because people are confusing Lonzo with LeVar when it comes to making big comments about his sons. And I didn't know if we were going to get to this story now or later, but LeBron James went into the hospital. It has to do with this story.
Yes.
And was seeing some kids in the hospital. And, excuse me, that the kid said to him, there's one wish I have. I don't remember exactly how he said it. Can you dunk on Lonzo Ball? And he said, yeah, I could try, but he'll probably be out of the picture by the time I dunk the basketball anyway.
But I mean, yeah. But I mean, there's also the fact that the Lakers are trying to essentially push out LeVar.
Well, they made the LeVar Ball rule, basically to stop people from being too involved with their sons or anybody, personally, family.
And now they were talking about this yesterday on all the shows, like Around the Horn, Pardon the Interruption. But now let's say LeBron lives up to the predictions and he goes to LA next year and he goes to the Lakers. What's going to happen there? Do you guys think maybe he'll push LeVar Ball out and say get out of the spotlights? Do we think we'll have a feud? Or
here's what I think, that excuse me, that LeBron is LeBron, and we all know that he's going to be in charge, essentially. Mm-hmm. We all know he's going to be the big free agent acquisition, he's going to be the GM, and he's going to be the owner. Yes, I know that's sarcasm, but it's making my point, that he's going to be in charge, and if LeVar Ball gets his nose out of joint, LeBron will beat the shit out of him, and that'll end that.
Well, do you think it would just be about LeVar? Do you think he'll keep Lonzo and take him under his wing, or? Well,
like I said, LeBron's essentially going to become the GM and the owner of the team. So it's going to be stay out of the fucking way, LeVar, and let me run and let me be the captain of this team, and you just watch from afar.
Like I said, I feel concerned about these kids because it's like I feel like this is just setting them up to be big flops, and it's like,
well, you kind of just took away their college eligibility by doing that.
And these kids, they need an education. I get it. Some athletes, skipped senior high school, skipped college. Went on.
Well, you can't do that anymore.
Right. But also, I'm just saying, well, Nick, I don't know, Nick Fodera, I don't know if you know the thing about my capstone or, everything, but all this research, it's like, there's nothing in this world, honestly, that's greater than an education. You need to have a fallback plan in case that this stuff doesn't work out. There's only so few people that are professional athletes.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that my father always drilled into my brother is that sports ain't exactly the only thing. I mean, it ended up not mattering much because my brother couldn't play anymore because he was hurt. But at this point, what we're seeing from it qualifies as child abuse, almost.
But I mean, I get it. It's like, the big baller brand. It's about the brand. It's about the celebrity or whatever.
Fuck the big baller brand.
Right, fuck the big baller brand. First of all.
It's the apotheosis of everything that the NBA has transformed into. LeVar Ball's just ahead of the curve. He cut out the middleman, as it were. He was able to turn his sons or his family into basically a cash machine without ever having to go through the NBA.
Right,
but I mean, there's something near almost admirable about that.
Right, but I mean, how long before? And I think we've had conversation about this in one of our classes, Nick. But how long does their celebrity status last? How long before it goes out?
I don't think it will because it's going to take a while because LeVar is a loudmouth.
Right, but if these kids flop, if Lonzo flops, and if LeBron pushes everything ball out of the team of the Lakers in the NBA, does their status even stay?
They will, because
it doesn't even matter, because no matter what happens, they'll still have made their money and they'll be laughing all the way to the bank, like I told you in a previous episode.
And it's second,
right? And the way this LeVar brand Ball brand is, and you know what? I know it's never going to happen, but I'd love to sit and have a chat with LeVar Ball, and if I have to do it, I will do it. And I will suffer through it.
I'm not participating in this.
It'd probably be like one of those Black Lounge scenes in Twin Peaks. Black Lodge, I should say.
I've had the chance to interview. I've had the chance to interview many personalities in sports media, crazy to wacky. In the entertainment world, I've had the chance to interview wacko people.
Also, can LeVar Ball afford a tooth?
And I'll tell
you, have you guys seen photos? Have you guys seen photos of LeVar Ball and his smile?
Oh my God! Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Can you please afford a toothbrush?
Maybe he's doing viral marketing for a Colgate commercial.
Wouldn't be the first time someone's done that on purpose.
So there was this TV commentator for Lithuanian basketball who felt that the Ball family needed a special welcome to Lithuania. So
are you talking about the radio network?
I think so. But let me play the sound.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening for all our spectators from abroad. We are starting live from Lithuania. This is Lithuanian Basketball League game. Vytautas Prienai, Nevėžis Kėdainiai. Mr. LaMelo Ball, thanks for watching. LiAngelo, LaMelo, we're waiting for you here. A welcoming song for you also. Welcome to Lithuania. Welcome to Lithuania. Welcome to Lithuania, the land of your beautiful basketball. Fodera.
I want this guy to read my morning news.
Wait a minute. I heard this on SportsCenter the other night. Oh my God! Is this where the wait a minute? Is this where the world has come that we now have to have Lithuanian radio networks giving intros to the Ball family?
He's happy. Give him a break.
He was happy. Oh my God! He was happy to see the Ball family. Oh, my God.
There's not much to look forward to in Lithuania anyway. All there is just creepy marionette museums, fistfuls of uranium, and dead birds.
We apologize to the country of Lithuania. The thoughts of Nick Fodera do not express the opinions of everybody.
Thoughts of this Unspoken Podcast. Oh, my God.
I might have pissed off the wrong people.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast on the Undetermined Podcast Network, boys. Well, what did you guys think of Week 14 in the NFL?
Was there such a thing? I checked out.
Yeah, really. I mean, the games were not that great, including the Colts and Denver game. Ugh.
The snow game. Well, you know what? It made for a much more interesting game than it could have been. Guys, if you look out your windows right now, it's snowing in Long Island.
Oh, no. Are you serious?
Yes.
Yep.
By the way, we know that there's more than people from Long Island listening to this. Tom just likes to give local weather reports.
Well, I'm just saying because all three of us are in Long Island right now. So, well, there you go. It's snowing now. So that's going to be fun, the walking.
And the weather outside is frightful. And the snow is so delightful. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, I think the most interesting thing about the last week was the Thursday night game, which we didn't get into too much last week. Even though we talked about Mr. Sean Payton giving the choke signal, running out onto the fields. And
Speaking of that, actually, I just got a report here on Twitter from Tom Pellizzero, who is a reporter for the NFL Network and NFL.com and SiriusXM NFL. The NFL has fined Saints coach Sean Payton and Seahawks coach Pete Carroll $10,000 each for improperly entering the playing field during recent games.
Well, the New Orleans game, I'm sorry. That was well deserved by Sean Payton for, made the choke signal.
He cost them the game.
Right, he cost them the game. He ran onto the field. No, I'm saying, that fine was freaking well deserved.
This season has just been a tire fire.
Let's see. You had the Seattle-Jacksonville brawl. One of the players nearly went into the stands after a fan threw beer.
I was watching that. All of a sudden, I see this 300-pound dude almost go. Well, it was kind of like. Do you remember the battle at? Yeah, I was going to say the scuffle at Auburn Hills, where
the Malice in the Palace.
The Malice at the Palace, right? And Ron Artest is laying across the scores table, and this Pacers fan throws a beer, and all of a sudden you see Ron Artest wake up like a robot and go flying into the stands with Steven Jackson and start punching the fan in the head. And now this 300-pound linebacker for Jacksonville, who's walking off the field after, and you have to explain this one to me because I don't get this.
Okay.
When you're trying to do a kneeling play at the end of a game,
mm-hmm.
and the defensive player decides to go running across the line of scrimmage to stop the kneeling, which leads to a brawl every time it happens. Why are we not putting rules into play for this?
Because nothing matters with the NFL anymore? I'm going to go with that one out.
Because league discipline is a fucking crapshoot.
But we have stupid penalties for field goals when you go flying over the offensive line. That's a penalty.
Right, which limits the amount of jumps and stops of blocking that can happen, which is...
So why isn't... I mean, they threw flags for it. There were obviously flags. By the way, no one got ejected for that. No one got ejected.
I got ejected, but they're going to get suspended and fined.
Right. I mean, at least, remember the last week... Well, not last week, 2 weeks ago in Week 13, we talked about the Peters thing for the Chiefs. At the very least, he got suspended a game.
It's about time.
But going through this whole week was just, Cleveland nearly won its first game and then choked the game away. Kaiser throwing one of the worst passes I've ever seen a quarterback throw.
What the shit were you expecting?
Well, I texted you, they're going to do it because they were up 21-7 and they fucking choked in the fourth.
And what was it that I said to you, pray tell?
You said, not now, working.
Exactly. I couldn't be bothered to give a hot tin shit.
By the way,
you know what?
Did you see that John Dorsey went on, I think they call the show The Really Big Show in ESPN Cleveland, and he was asked about, what was his name, Hugh Jackson, the head coach, and asked about, do you think that he essentially said, is he going to be the coach next year? And it was already confirmed that he was going to be the coach in 2018.
This is where he ripped on the whole last administration of the team.
Well, this just recently happened. I don't know. And basically he came out and said, we're still evaluating. After the ownership said that he's going to be back.
Football.
Come on, man.
Speaking of quarterbacks, hey guys, San Francisco's 2-0 in the Jimmy Garoppolo era. No.
2-0.
2-0.
Okay.
No, it doesn't call for that. It calls for this. Stand aside.
Women and children first.
Well, knowing Garoppolo, he is a child, so maybe he does go first.
Kansas City stomped on Oakland and then nearly coughed up the game in the fourth. Denver ran over the Jets, and, the Jets need a new quarterback.
Actually,
he broke his hand, and
I just had some news to break also, that some NFL news, that Trevor Siemian is done for the season.
Well, Denver, congratulations. You get more Brock Osweiler.
And he's on IR with a shoulder injury, so he's done for the rest of the season. That's according to Adam Schefter.
Anybody? Brock Osweiler? Anybody? Hey, where you going?
Well, let's look at it this way. Two interesting situations, okay? So Brock Osweiler in Denver, and now Nick Foles in Philadelphia.
Yes, because while Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles... I put it this way. The Philadelphia Eagles have become the first team in NFL history to qualify for the playoffs and get eliminated in the same week.
It's miraculous when you think about it.
Because
it's like being able to... It's like patting your head, rubbing your stomach, and getting shot in the face all within 5 seconds.
Because, the Philadelphia Eagles, we might as well just play taps in the background like one of my favorite YouTubers as they do the recap because, you are now officially fucked. You will be fucked up by whatever team you face in the second round. It's the Philadelphia tradition.
Hey,
Tradition. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Pittsburgh playing down to their competition on Sunday Night Football. Tell me you've heard that one before.
Ugh.
Wait, are you sure you haven't actually traveled back in time? Because I could have swore I heard that at some point.
And then the Dolphins beat the Brady and the New England Patriots on Monday night. What the fuck?
I'm telling you, though, that definitely had to be some kind of lackadaisical laziness on the Patriots' part.
No, that is alchemy. That is some kind of black magic.
I know Brady struggles when it comes to freaking Miami on the road, but come on, against this Miami team.
What is he, like 7-9 now, I think?
Something like that. I mean, this is 2 bad performances in a row from Tom Brady. This
Shocker.
is 2 bad weeks in a row.
I wouldn't go sounding the alarm bells just yet because, we all know this man will never go away. He'll never have
I was going to say, he's facing Tomlin in the Steelers next week, and we'll get to that.
He's not going away because he wants to play until 45, so he's not going away.
It's not going to fucking happen. And this just furthers my claim. The Patriots have been so exposed this year that even if they go to the Super Bowl, they will lose. They will finally lose to somebody not named Eli Manning because they have just been exposed this year. Their defense, Brady having bad weeks, Gronk getting suspended a week.
Not surprised.
This team is basically not who we think it is.
You telling me I should be surprised with all this crap?
I have one thing I want to talk about. I have a hot take.
Oh, no.
Eli Apple, you are a disappointment to this team.
Okay,
right now.
all right. Context is necessary. Before you go
Yes.
Before you go flying off a cliff, what you must know is that Eli Apple, the Giants cornerback, he was inactive for this past week's game against the Cowboys.
Try 4 games.
Oh, yes.
Yes. 4 games.
Silly me. When the team has basically just disappeared into a void of black, empty nothingness, you tend not to notice when shit like this happens.
And when a team hates each other, but besides that point.
It's like I'm in excruciating pain. You're twisting me into a pretzel, but hey, you validated my goddamn parking. But still, he was inactive, and he was tweeting during the game.
Which is a fine.
Well, it could be worse. It could be it could be beast mode, not speaking to the media.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined.
Here's the thing. It's what he tweeted. He tweeted all this stuff about, there's one Cowboys player who he went to school with, and it was like, I'm this for life over, being a Giants. And now there's been a whole shitstorm this week between him and Landon Collins. Basically, Eli Apple saying Collins never helped me, only Cromartie did, and Brandon Marshall. Collins is like, oh, well, that's interesting because I remember helping you a lot, you liar. And it's just freaking.
Oh, God.
Nobody on this team knows how to get along anymore. The defense is so shit. And I mean, sure, Landon Collins isn't having the year like he had last year where he's fucking dominates.
Now he's out for this coming week.
Oh, God. But you know what? And I know people shout on Landon Collins because he sided with McAdoo when it came to the benching of Eli Manning. But you have to remember one thing. You know who also technically was siding with McAdoo, quote unquote? Eli Manning, because there are players on this team that are just trying to save face and act professional on a team that has basically gone to the shitter. And
No. They have not gone to the shitter because they've
been there already. They've been there quite a few times.
No. They've become the shitter. They've reached the shitter singularity.
Let's put it this way. People are good. The porta potties at the games. Basically, what's happening is
they become the porta potties.
Well, they see the porta potties and it says Giants on it, and they walk inside, and they basically say, "I'm going to shit on the Giants," and they're going to flush their problems away and leave.
But besides the point, this team has
make your point.
This team has just done, I don't know what the fuck to describe this team. This team, as we said a couple of weeks ago, it needs alcohol poured on it with a match to go with it. It needs to be burned to the ground. And we need to freaking reset and refigure out who is actually here to play. And Eli Apple and his shitty attitude.
Misery, please.
Eli Apple and his shitty attitude are not what this team needs right now.
You know what this reminds me of, actually?
What?
This reminds me of, if you remember Pablo Sandoval, who was tweeting during a Giant... was it a Giant game or a Red Sox game? I think it was a Red Sox game.
He was in the bathroom and he was
tweeting.
He was tweeting while on the pot.
But the thing is... he's tweeting about, his attitude. He's acting like he's a fucking big shot when he has underachieved 2 years now. And I mean, there were other people, everyone's saying on like SNY in the comments and stuff, like there were other people that the Giants could have gotten in the draft. But of course, we had Jerry Reese who didn't give two shits about the draft. Because if he gave two shits about the draft, we'd have Todd Gurley and not Eric Flowers.
But now it's gone. But now he's gone.
So you know what? I know he's gone. I know. And it's pissing me off. But you know what? The Giants, they need to make an example. They need to set an example of next year of you're going to play, you're going to come and be a team player or you're not going to be here. It's time to let Eli Apple go. Fire him. Get him out of here. Maybe do something nice for the mother because the mother, everyone's saying, oh, it's because of his mom and his cancer. No. His shitty attitude is not what we need. It's not what a team that has fallen as far as the New York Giants have fallen need.
I guess the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, hasn't it?
Get out.
You're even forcing him to make puns.
But I'm sorry.
That's how upside down this friggin' situation is.
I'm sorry. I feel for his mother. Maybe do something nice and I'll pay for surgery, but that's it. I'm done with Eli Apple. He needs to fucking go.
Actually, speaking of happy stories, did you hear about Stephen Piscotty?
What happened now?
Oh, no. This is actually a good one.
I did hear. Yes. Yes,
so Stephen Piscotty was traded from the Cardinals to the A's, and now they did it in good faith because his mom, I think, has what does he have?
Brain cancer.
Brain cancer. Thank you. And they did it out of respect so he could be near his mom.
Applause to the Cardinals and the A's. That is a class act. Class move.
Well, the Cardinals are a class organization.
Right. No, I'm saying that there's still some class in this world.
Because they didn't have to do that. They could have said no.
Right. So there's that. And, thank God there are some people out there that are still, make this world not as shitty.
So that's going to do it for us here on the Unspoken Podcast. Unfortunately for our listeners, you might not hear from us next week.
Yes, the Unspoken Podcast will be off 1 week for Christmas. And be prepared. What?
And so that way, episode 50 coordinates with our 1 year anniversary.
And be prepared. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans coming in episode 50.
And after that, you got to see what we got planned. It is going to
be a lot of changes going on.
And
also, there's a few more things we got to get to in this episode. I wouldn't be remiss if we didn't talk about the Sports Pope in his last show is happening right as we're recording this episode.
Thanks, Francesa.
No, fuck Francesa. Gone.
he can take his huge Diet Coke and his pension for narcolepsy, and he can get the hell out of here.
Well, he can take his chicken parmesan, his Diet Coke. We're back. All right, we're back.
Goodbye, Francesca. I was always a Mad Dog guy anyways.
Hey, he's still in Satellite.
As far as I'm concerned, the both of them can go to hell.
Hey, what's wrong with Dog? You have a problem with Dog?
I got a problem with most sports talk radio other than Kay and LaGreca. And Canty and DiPietro. That's just me.
Wow, you're such a New York eccentric guy. It shows.
Well, you know what? I just can't stand. Well, I give props to Francesca for 30 years, and who can last 30 years in this job without it actually sucking out your brain like something out of a B horror movie?
Well, that's what you get for making $5 million a year.
I tip my hat, but you know what? Let's see what we got with New Blood.
Just so you know, people think, he's going away. He's doing a podcast, everybody. It's not breaking news.
Are you listening to the Unspoken Podcast?
Oh, God, no.
Unspoken Podcast, 'cause nobody but me speaks.
No!
We got to have him as a guest. That would be amazing.
Oh, my God.
All right, we're back.
Wait, we're back. So you guys are all graduate? I don't know why I'm making him speak like Christopher Walken, but...
All right, we're back. We're on the Unspoken Podcast.
So you guys are graduate students? Is there any money in that?
God.
The Giants suck! Come on!
Gino!
Come on!
Gino Smith!
Oh,
Gino Smith!
No. You know what I'm going to do as tribute? I'll play a little lullaby, see if I'll fall asleep on air again.
All right, I think we're falling off the rails here.
Yeah,
I think
I was
it's...
gonna say, my only thing was going to be, of course, he had to take a shot at Michael Kay during his last legs. Fuck off. I like Michael Kay.
Don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you there, Mikey.
Oh, shit. Well, when you see the new show that's coming in, Chris Carlin, Maggie Gray, and Bart Scott, oy.
I'd still 10 times rather listen to both.
Hey, they won't be rude to Vinny from Syosset when he calls in the middle of rubberneck traffic. They go Mets.
Wait a minute, it's going to be so weird because I wonder if everyone knows who calls into the sports talk show Sour Shoes. Do you know who Sour Shoes is?
I always hear about these people, but I rarely ever, because I don't.
He's the one who calls in and does the impressions of Mike Francesa and Mad Dog and.
Oh, okay.
Like, is he going to retire the impression when he calls into the show? It's so good. You have no idea.
He might have to.
You know what? I have to see if I can get him 1 week and put him on this podcast. He is amazing. He will do Francesa, Mad Dog. He does some Howard Stern people. It would be a riot just to. All right, we're interviewing the fake Francesa. All right, how's it going?
And last thing, I just want to say, have a happy holiday, whatever you celebrate. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus, Happy whatever the fuck you celebrate.
Merry Happy Hana Kwanzaa, however you want to say it.
Happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
That's it. Thank you.
That's how I always say it.
Holidays from the Unspoken Podcast to you. We love you guys. We wouldn't be doing this without you. And really, stick around because it's about to get a whole lot different up in here.
You want to give a quick teaser into next season?
And thank you to Matt Cerrone, by the way, for coming on and doing the interview.
You want to give a quick teaser into what's coming?
I don't know. Surprises are always best.
Hey, you got to leave them off with a quick teaser. That's how every good season ends, going into a new one.
Well,
you know what I'll tell them? You know what I'll tell them? Stuff and more of it.
There's going to be some changes. There's going to be some revamps. And nothing, even more of nothing will be left unspoken.
It's the Unspoken Podcast 2.0. And we might be able to get rid of the glitches.
So,
actually, no, we can't get rid of the glitches.
So for Nick Fodera and Nick Morgasen, I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you next time for the episode 50 1-year anniversary celebration, the end of season 1, the start of season 2, the start of something new. Until then, you've been listening to the Unspoken Podcast, a Cheap Seat Sports production, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. Good night, everybody.
Good night and happy holidays, everybody.
Good night and happy holidays.
You know, Scott Hansen talks about the Wild Wild West, Wild Wild AFC West on the Red Zone. More like the Wild Wild first-round playoff elimination.
All there is just creepy marionette museums, fistfuls of uranium, and dead birds.